What if the Golden State Warriors' off-season silence isn't calm preparation, but the thunder before a storm so baffling it shakes the very foundation of Dub Nation's hopes? Welcome back to Warriors News Fan Report, where raw truths collide with splash-era passion. Smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so your heart never misses a beat. We were lied to, folks. The promises whispered through the bay that this front office was locked, loaded, and ready to build a championship contender around the magic of Steph Curry, the tenacity of Draymond Green, and the rising promise of Jonathan Kuminga have crumbled into a perplexing reality that the Warriors can barely keep up with signing one of their own, let alone maneuver the seismic moves fans expected. Now, as the sands shift in this unsettling 2024-25 offseason, the latest, almost surreal report has dropped. Kevin Love could be the Warriors' next big free agent acquisition. Yes, the same Kevin Love whose heyday swagger powered Cleveland's 2016 glory and once made headlines as a near-trade centerpiece for Golden State over a decade ago, thankfully never realized, as history would have played out quite differently. And here we stand in 2025, staring at what feels like a throwback era signing that's hardly inspiring the excitement Warriors faithful deserve. Let me break it down, because this doesn't just smell like a bad fit. It stings like a betrayal by a front office that seemed so eager, but now looks stuck in neutral, struggling to even finalize Kuminga's contract while the rest of the NBA's titans make their bold, splashy moves. The news that Kevin Love, recently traded to the Utah Jazz, is expected to buy out his contract and dive into free agency sent ripples one, because the Cavs, his old team, are reportedly the leading suitors, but two, because the Warriors sit in the runner-up spot, trailing closely as a possible landing spot for a player whose best days appear locked in the past. For many, the last memory of Love on the hardwood is faded. His role in the recent NBA Finals almost feels like ancient history now. This is a 36-year-old, seasoned but worn, who logged just 5 points and 4 rebounds per game last season, shooting a modest 36% from beyond the arc with Miami, far from the dominant stretch five that could elevate Golden State's rotation. Sure, the Warriors crave front-court depth, a big man who can stretch the floor and morph the lineup's dynamics, but is Kevin Love truly the answer? Sven Quinton Post, a young, more athletic big, already eclipses him defensively and fits the Warriors' modern blueprint more naturally. Kevin Love's inclusion feels more like a nostalgic headline to placate an anxious fan base instead of a strategic, gamesmanship-driven acquisition meant to propel this current roster into contention. And then there's Al Horford still tantalizingly unsigned but flirting with Golden State and the Denver Nuggets in what might be a season-defining decision, especially with Brad Stevens' recent departure from Boston, throwing his own future into question. Horford remains a wild card, potentially a wiser veteran fit needing to balance leadership with durability in a squad currently burdened by cap constraints and roster depth concerns. Remember, the crux of the problem for Golden State this offseason isn't just the wait and see on Horford or the stalling on Kuminga's deal, it's the silence on bold moves. While other franchises sprint to reshape their futures, the Warriors linger in a holding pattern. And yet, amid the dull hum of Kevin Love rumors rise whispers of alternatives far more tantalizing. Chris Boucher, once a Warrior briefly but now carving a niche with Toronto, emerges in whispers as a genuine steal. Boucher's season stats tell a compelling story, averaging 10 points and 4.5 rebounds, with credible three-point shooting percentages, 36% overall and 40% from the corners. Despite a mercurial role on a struggling Raptors team intent on tanking, his defensive acumen, crowned years ago by a G League Defensive Player of the Year crown, fits like a glove with Golden State's defensive identity, promising more than just spot minutes, but meaningful contributions off the bench. Contrast that with Love's aging, sometimes sluggish presence. Boucher represents not just a player, but a philosophy, dynamic, growth-oriented, and primed to ride the flow of Curry's reign rather than cling to yesterday's laurels. And adding layers to this off-season chess game, The Warriors' interest in veterans like Trey Lyles, a 29-year-old Kings alum known for his three-point ability and rotational tenacity, and Precious Achiuwa, an emerging center with defensive versatility, points to a broader agenda. Not just acquiring names, but finding the right fit for a roster already rich in stars, but thin and reliable. Energy-driven big men who can defend and space the floor. Who else whispers amid the rumors? Tristan Thompson's name surfaces, a former Cavalier relic whose impact has diminished alongside Love's. And Marvin Bagley, though his injury history and inconsistency make him a gamble. The theme is clear. Golden State's front office is grappling not only with assembling talent, but defining identity for the next championship push. Financially and strategically, their cap sheet is tight. Once Kuminga's deal is inked, space will crunch further, thrusting Summer League hopefuls into the spotlight as possible hidden gems. The stakes couldn't be higher. The clock is ticking faster than ever with aging stars Steph and Draymond, facing the relentless grind of the NBA, making veteran depth all the more crucial. Yet instead of decisive action, we get whispers of signings that feel like comfort blankets, not power plays. The shock of potentially bringing in Kevin Love, a player whose NBA Finals glory feels like a lifetime ago, whose best statistical seasons are behind him, is harsh medicine for a fan base hungering for relevance and championship contention. Could this be the silent pivot that eclipses even the Kevin Durant era? Or is it the telltale crack giving way to a dynasty quietly fracturing under the pressure of time and front office missteps? As a lifelong Dub Nation believer, my pulse is racing just writing this. The silence, the slow drip of these reports, they feel like harbingers of something more significant than just a free agent pickup. So I have to ask you, is this the spark that reignites our dynasty, or the fracture that sends us spiraling away from the glory days? Drop your unfiltered takes in the comments. I'll be right there, heart in hand. If you just felt that pit in your stomach grow louder reading about Kevin Love once again floating around Golden State's orbit, don't hold it in, let it out loud right here, right now, because this ain't just another off-season footnote. This is the thunderclap before the storm that could either forge a new chapter or fracture the dynasty we fought tooth and nail to build. The silence from the front office right now feels more like a ticking time bomb than a breath before the next big splash. You gotta wonder, what's really going on behind those glass walls of Chase Center? Are we witnessing a creative freeze? A nervous front office paralyzed by the past? Or worse, a slow capitulation to the harsh truth that the golden era of Curry, Draymond, and Clay might be slipping through our fingers faster than we can blink? Every other big player in the league is moving at lightning speed contract extensions here. Blockbuster trades there, polished young cores up in their pace. While we're stuck in this weird limbo, clutching at faded stars like Kevin Love. And maybe, just maybe, trickling in mid-tier veterans like Trey Lyles or Precious Achiuwa, as if patching up a sinking ship with tape and prayers. You feel that, right? That sickening echo of fading glory? The lessons from the past don't lie, dynasties don't drift. They're built or they break. The Warriors front office needs to decide hard and fast if they want to cling to what's left of the splash era or pivot wildly to a risky rebuild. But what's terrifying is time isn't on our side. Steph's ankles have already endured more than any human should bear. Draymond's fiery tank might not burn forever. And Kuminga, as thrilling as he is, isn't the franchise savior yet. The clock is spinning, and this Kevin Love chatter feels like smoke and mirrors. Do we really want to see a one-time NBA Finals force past his prime trying to patch our front court when the rest of the league is sprinting toward youth and versatility? Look at the fiery young guys lighting it up. Wiggins ready to prove if he's more than a perimeter threat. Moody showing flashes of what could be the next splash. And Kuminga expected to break out but stuck waiting for contracts while we circle the same old names from our heyday. This isn't just a few missteps, it's a yawning gap of vision that could swallow us whole if not corrected with urgency and conviction. And then there's the ghost of Al Horford, maybe the wily vet who could glue this roster together with his steady interior defense, his underrated shooting, the veteran leadership that Kerr so desperately wants. But even that feels like a delicate dance on a tightrope of financial reality and questionable durability. It's like trying to balance on a knife's edge while the whole team waits, watches, wonders, professing belief, but silently fearing the dynasty's fraying edges are catching on the thorns of indecision and missed windows. The juxtaposition between love for this team and frustration with the front office's strategy is unbearable. We worship Steph's brilliance, cheer for Draymond's intensity, and rally behind Kuminga's promise, but we can't ignore the annoying doubt setting. And every time we hear about these borderline signings that sound less like championship tweaks and more like last-ditch attempts to stay relevant, remember when Durant left, and we shook the league's foundation with relentless resilience, clutch moments, and sheer will. Now, it feels like the front office's imagination has shrunk to yesterday's headlines and recycling veterans rather than seizing tomorrow's stars. Could it be that the era of splashy trades, bold draft steals, and fearless roster reboots is behind us? What if the shackles of salary cap hell and dated contracts are anchoring us down while fresh contenders rise around us like tidal waves? And while the Warriors' nucleus battles the physical and mental war of aging, the rest of the league's young guns keep circling the throne with hunger. This isn't just a rough patch. It's a crossroads packed with narrative weight that could unravel the entire dynasty's legacy if we don't do something seismic. As the whispers of Kevin Love to Golden State inflate into a swirling rumor, it's a stark warning sign of how far we might have drifted from dominance to desperation. The maddening uncertainty, the slow chase of middle ground signings. Instead of gas pedals to the championship, the stalling in Kuminga's deal that all adds up to a crashing crescendo of anxiety. But even as I stand here, heart flickering between anger and hope, I can't shake the feeling that this is a fight worth fighting, a fight for respect, legacy, and the heart of a fan base that's been everything this franchise needed in its glorious rise. We've tasted triumph, felt the magic, and held on to hope when almost no one else did. Now, more than ever, we need the front office to channel that same spirit of fearless innovation and unbreakable belief that defined the Fin Splash era. We need to hear moves that shock the league, bring new blood that ignites our core, and a vision so clear and bold it reinvents what the Warriors are and what we can still become. Because if we don't, if we settle for signs pointing to a fading dynasty plugged with yesterday's names and half measures, the narrative will shift, forever dubbed as the team that let its greatest era dissolve quietly, chasing ghosts without catching lightning again. As someone who bled blue and gold through every heart-stopping buzzer beater, every Game 7 meltdown, every triumphant parade down Market Street, I feel it, the restless energy, the collective holding the breath from Dub Nation. This offseason isn't just about signings or contracts. It's the very soul of our team hanging in the balance. So now it's your moment, your voice, your unfiltered truth. Drop your hottest takes down below. No filter, no fear. Fire up the comments, light up Dub Nation with those receipts and raw feelings. Because whatever happens next, this conversation is ours. Our fight, our story. And no matter what, the heart of the Warriors beats strongest in the roar of its people. Let's hear it.